I'm Keeley Hudd. I'm a DJ, trying to be a producer, event promoter and ex-radio manager from Bristol. I used to DJ under my alias Sadsugar, and I used to run long throw radio, and now I run a party called Side Eye. So I grew up in Pembrokshire in southwest Wales, which is a really rural countryside, very touristy area, and I grew up with a mum that used to go to free parties a lot when I was a kid. Divorced from my dad, who he's a youth worker. So I kind of was having two very split lives, one with my mum, who was a bit of a raver, and then the other one with my dad, who was very much studious, hardworking. But I saw a lot of music and was listening to a lot of music in Pembrokeshire, and because it's so rural, a lot of the stuff there is either really, really commercial, or it's just lots of free parties and pulling sound systems into fields or friends, like farms and barnyards, and basically spending my weekends kind of from around the age of 15, just going to parties in very weird, probably slightly illegal places. And I loved them. As I got a little bit older and I started seeing or going to festivals and seeing the kind of curation behind the vibe of a party, rather than just go play music, get drunk, do whatever, I really wanted to create something that felt a little bit more polished and curated and immersive in Pembrokeshire. So I wanted to create something a bit more curated and polished, I guess, and I couldn't run a party at my mum's house because my mum's house is full of children, and I couldn't run a party at my dad's house because my dad is a youth worker and I can't have any young people there. So I wanted to run something indoors. I was hunting around trying to figure out a way that I could make this work, and a friend of mine, Pip, was telling me that she was about to move out of her house. This house is multiple occupancy, very, very crazy building, kind of two separate areas, and she was thinking about having a leaving party, and I said, well, if you let me help you move out and pretty much gut your house, if I can have the empty shell of it for a night, I'd love to run a party in there. And so I started. I didn't know any DJs, nobody really had equipment like that at the time, and it wasn't something that I really knew much about, but I had this specific kind of vibe that I wanted to hit in this 2-room kind of fake club environment that I was building in my head. And so I made 2 13-hour-long playlists, which I picked every single track, put them in order. I added up the timing of each track so that I knew if I played this set of songs, that's eventually going to get me to about 10 p.m. And at 10 p.m. in the quiet room, I wanted to move more into R&B and hip hop, and in this room, I wanted to move into more kind of I guess G-funk and things like that. So I had these huge lists of songs and timings, and I was adding stuff up. And then I wanted to make decor, so I was sourcing anything that I could, lighting wise and kind of fabric wise. I cut up so many of my old clothes and made rag bunting, and I stole my brother's grow lights, these big pink clip lights for the dance room, and I was making little wristbands, things like that, just something to really make it as immersive as possible, I guess. So the first party was in Pip's house in this town called Pembroke, right over this really old river that it looks out onto, or you can basically see Pembroke Castle, which is where King Henry VII was born. And it's a really weird little door on the side of a road next to a really big pub and all these weird shops, kind of old-timey, traditional, very seaside town stores. And then there's this door you walk in, and you turn to the right, that's my left, you turn to the left, and there's this sunken living room, which was so extremely 70s, and that was the chill room that we had, and a toilet. And then you would walk out again, out another door, and you would be outside, and then you go back around the other side, and you could see this bright pink glow from the dance room, which was in the other part of the building, that you had to go outside, back in, round, and you kind of had this really cool little window setting, just looking in and seeing all my friends dancing. And I just invited friends, and Pembrokeshire at the time and it probably still is like that now, but it's so rural that kind of anybody who's within the similar age bracket and into like music or kind of, you know, any experience of partying, like we all know each other. And so we had people from like all over the county there, people who had never met, people who had like crossed paths before very briefly. We had people coming down from Stroud, you know, friends, girlfriends, friends of friends, people who I'd only met the week before. But it was just such a lovely mix of people, and I remember there being this really amazing sense of like openness. I don't feel like I get that so much anymore when I'm older and I'm in clubs, but that kind of, people knew that because they were there, they would get along well, and people made like instant friends that night, and it was really special. I think just like one of my favourite moments, maybe, I have this friend Menna, who's like so tiny, a little kind of fairy, and she's like so nuts as well. She's like a ping pong ball, like you kind of throw her and she just starts zipping everywhere. And the people whose house we helped them move out of, one of them is a LARPer, which isn't like quite a big thing in Pembrokeshire, and he had this like huge collection of swords and like chainmail, and at one point I just turned around in the dance room and I can hear this jingling, and Menna's just got like bits of chainmail on her and this huge sword, and she's like, look what I found, just like swinging all this stuff around. I think a few other, I mean, there were people that were coming in just off the streets thinking it was a nightclub, which was quite funny. Also kind of like probably scary at the time when you're a bunch of like 17, 18-year-old kids having this party. But the main reason I ran it actually especially was because I was about to move to the first place I went to university, to Aberystwyth, and I wanted to like have this kind of collection of all these people who were so spread out in one place. And I just had some like bits of paper and pens where people could like write goodbyes. And I just remember like coming into the pink room at one point and like everybody being on the floor and having this like really big, beautiful communal art session, and just drawing and writing really lovely messages and sharing really beautiful things with each other. My friend Jana wrote me this like really beautiful note and did this doodle for me that is still very special to me, that I have stored in like a memory box somewhere. And then in the like the downstairs, in the chill room that we had, like the kind of sunken space, it really did have that kind of like 70s shag carpet sunken living room vibe. And I would just go in and see like multiple collections of some of my favourite people just like all huddled in together, having like really, really lovely heart-to-hearts. And it was so nice because the music as well, I feel like that's the main thing for me, is something that like the music just creates the space so much. And I curated something really special with a lot of hard work, and nobody touched the music all night because I was like, look, I've made this playlist, it's going to perfectly ride us through. And there were just such synergetic moments where the tune was playing, and I remembered being in my head 3 weeks before going, I want this to be like what's happening in the room when this song plays, and just like seeing it pan out. And the sense of fulfillment I think you get from that, if you're ever somebody who's like run events, that's kind of like the part where it all the stars align and the vision that you had in your head is in front of you, because you can't really rely on how people will behave, but it's so nice to have that kind of like trust and faith in yourself and the tunes that you play and the people that you like interact with, to know that these like really beautiful moments are going to come up the way that you think they will in your head. Yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I do like the term FlatPack Party, because you kind of turn up into this empty space. But yeah, I think house parties are a dying art actually, and I think, you know, I've ran a lot of house parties in Bristol afterwards that have been like very big, like hundreds or so people in a place, but those were like house parties. And I think that the Keeley Fest thing was special because of the environment and space that you had, and so I do hope that people can take that idea and do it again. So like, I guess find somebody that's about to move out of their house and offer to help them try and get that space as shell-like as you can get it, unless there's something you can really use there. But you know, you kind of, where we're from, we didn't have warehouses to have parties, we had empty homes. So like, find an empty home, think about who you want especially to be in that space and the environment and ambiance, I guess, that you want to create, and how for you do you set that up, because it's a reflection on you, right? A party is quite a narcissistic thing to do actually, because it's about you going, this is what I want from a night, but that usually guides you very well. So think about the conversations that you would like to have, the experiences you would like to have in that party, the kind of spaces that you would like to sit in and dance in and chat in, and you know, the drinks that you would like to drink, and kind of, you know, you don't need to be so meticulous, but you need to think about like how that happens for you and then emulate it on a bigger scale. It doesn't need to be massive. Get your friends to help you out, build 13-hour long playlists and time everything, or just get everybody to like communally add to something. But the more that you can put on autopilot on the night, so people just immerse themselves, that's kind of the point that you want to get to, so it feels special. So, you know, you don't want to have to think about adding music or making the space look like it's kind of your friends can just readily walk in and then like let themselves go to the experience, I guess. Yeah, I guess I think the experiences that I had growing up in Pembrokeshire and how limited things are down there, I kind of thought that I would end up in a 9-to-5 job without much kind of engagement with the music industry, or I wasn't really sure of how, like, why the music industry was open to me. But I was just running parties because I wanted to have a fun house party, and now, you know, I've got this very strong reputation of running not only good house parties, but, you know, like, I run club nights, I run a radio station, I did a degree in music, which if I didn't get a vocals degree I would have done events management, and they let me in purely based on the fact that I ran these parties. So you can just do things for fun and that's fine, but you can make a legacy out of something like so small just if you kind of put actually your own like heart and soul and energy into it. Create something that is for you and is amazing for you, and other people will come and enjoy it and feel the essence of you in that. And I guess my last piece of advice, maybe, or something to hold on to. When I was 18 or 19, I had this one really intense day where I got like broken up with, and my best friend told me they were moving, and Prince died. And I was quite an emotional 18-year-old, and my dad came in my room and he said to me, "Keeley babe, like, everything is transient." And that is definitely one of the biggest things that I've still held on to in my adult life so far, and this idea that like shit moves really, really fast, things change really quickly, and holding on to this idea of something that like you want to kind of be forever, or this idea of what you think you should be, and not allowing any room for movement in that is just, it stunts your development and it makes you stagnate, and actually it stops you from exploring routes and paths that you otherwise never ever would have touched. Like, I was not allowed to do music in school, I can't read music, I never ever thought that I would be in the world that I'm in now, but I just like, I threw a fun party one day, and then that led to something else, which led to me DJing, which led to me running a radio station, which led to me, you know, like teaching at a university. Like, if it hadn't been for that kind of bit of advice and just allowing yourself to roll with those movements and changes, even when they seem bad at the time, I think it's quite a positive force to take guidance from. So yeah, I think that's probably what I would leave the people with.